Johnny, I see your hand up.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning.
So, not really win, but just a quick follow-up to the accounting conversation being had, and just wondered if anybody had any experience with this, or anybody at Redmond have any experience with this. I've heard you guys at Redmond talk about this a little bit, but I have a friend who's a small business owner, and he was telling me that he switched to I think they're an Indian-based accounting firm, bookkeeping firm, and he was going on and on about how great they were and how easy they were to work with, and cheap. And so I was just wondering if anybody else had any experience with offshoring bookkeeping like that, and what their thoughts on that was. I find myself very resistant to it, but I also trust this guy, and he really had nothing but good things to say about it. And I've been thinking about making a switch on the accounting side.
Yeah, great question. Anybody have any feedback of having done that or heard about that as well? I've got some feedback after someone else shares or anyone else shares. Any feedback on offshore accounting? Mr. Hodge.
Hey guys. Be wary of using, even though they're very bright people, they're hardworking, but if you offshore it to a Filipino group, they will do exactly what you tell them and absolutely nothing more. It's just not in their cultural mindset to be overly proactive. But they're wonderful people. Some of the Indian companies are very proactive, but you just got to make sure that they understand, U.S. tax law in your jurisdiction, if there's anything unique about it, or if there's anything unique about your business. Some of them are straight bookkeepers billing themselves as accountants, and those are not the same thing. And so I have a few business owner friends of mine that have done offshoring, and then had to do a lot of cleanup work at the end of the year because things were miscategorized, and there were things that affected depreciation schedules and things of that nature, which impacted their tax liability. So just do a good vetting up front would probably be my best advice. Know what questions to ask, and if you don't know what questions to ask, then talk to somebody who does before you go hiring an offshore accounting firm. That is all.
Yeah, good advice. Thank you.
Anyone else got some feedback here? That was great, Jeremy. Thanks for sharing. Cool.
Hi, good morning.
Oh, go ahead, Miss Laura.
Good morning.
I don't offshore, but I will put in a plug for S Corp Biz. Was Shane Williamson is the accountant that was recommended to us by Robert. We'd been with the same CPA for 15 years or longer, and we're looking for a change. And I can tell you that Shane and his team are outstanding. They're doing the company's tax returns and Matt and I's personal. So highly recommend them. Love them. They're great. They've held my hand through transitioning from QuickBooks Desktop to QuickBooks Online, which if you it was hard. I cried during that making the change. So anyway, not offshore, but they're really good. So I highly recommend them.
Yeah.
QuickBooks Online is amazing. Embrace into it. The AI and all the automated stuff it does is great, but it was a challenge to get there.
Yeah, change is always hard, no matter what it is, but it's usually worth it. And
yeah.
I think who was I meeting with? He may not be on the call this morning, but he was saying that about switching from Jobber to House Call Pro as a service company. It was hard, but worth it, and it absolutely that it is. Yeah, we do like Shane with S Corp and their crew. I put the link in there for their site. If you're a client with us, just let them know, because they also will coordinate a little bit more closely with us on those accounts, so we can get the numbers from them as well. You don't have to forward your numbers to us as much like you do with others. But the main things that we say are really valuable and important that you need to make sure happen, regardless of who or where or how your bookkeeping and stuff is being done, is that you're at least getting monthly statements and a monthly meeting with your CPA or bookkeeper. If you're not getting that, it's not worth the cost that you're paying. A really good bookkeeper can be upwards of like $1,000 a month, and you get what you pay for with that. A really bad bookkeeper can be, $200 a month, and you get what you pay for with that. I will say if cost is the main consideration, some of those offshore accounting companies I've not worked with, but I've known people that have used bookkeeping agencies or bookkeeping staffing that are sourced out of India, in particular, that they've had good results because they do turn it around pretty quickly, and they will be U.S. Not educated. What's the word I'm looking for? Like jurisdiction. Like they'll be for your area. There's enough activity happening from India to that area that they actually are knowledge and versed on those tax laws. Just depends on who you go with. So if you have a guy that has a good connection to one of the good companies out there doing it, great. But it's one of those things that we say is worth the investment, the couple of $100 a month that you would pay into it. And I think the feedback that Mr. Hodge gave was relevant as well. But I think the main thing I would add to that is just saying, if you know a sourcing agency specifically that someone's had good experience with, you're likely to get good experience as well, but you still have to stay close to the issue. Don't delegate it and then walk away, but make it a regular, at minimum, at least a monthly meeting with your direct account manager, regardless of whatever type of bookkeeping that you're doing, but especially that. Nice. Any other feedback on that one, or I can transition us a little bit? We already kind of started the Q&A section, so we'll go ahead and open it up for any other questions. Can be about accounting or anything else related, but what sort of stuff has been on your mind this week? Issues, problems, things you're running into, you want to get some feedback on from coaches and clients? Go ahead and raise your hand, unmute, put it in the chat, any of the above. Mr. Mack, go ahead.
Good morning, everyone. So,
Morning.
we're in a good spot right now, and we're really thankful for it. And we feel like we're in a position where we're trying to scale. And one thing that we've been thinking about is trying to internally promote some of our guys that we think are capable to be leads for each group and such, or just, promoting someone with more responsibilities in general. So one thing I've been thinking about a lot is I'd like to hear from other people, their experiences on kind of coaching and building their internal people up to become more of a managerial leadership position, and how it's something I've never done before. It's something I'm not really good at teaching, so I'm curious to hear like how people have done it, whether it's, like read this in your free time, or like let's have a half-day meeting where we talk about it. So I don't know. I'm open to all feedback.
Nice. Good question. So just to clarify, Danny, is your question, how do you train a leader, like a manager level type of person, more than just a...
Yeah,
I think-
let me add
Yeah.
some nuance. So, a lot of these guys, they're not coming from a corporate background. Like they haven't worked for a big company. They've never, like Danny and I both come from corporate. We were in that world. We know all about the annoying trainings and things like that. But I guess we're just trying to figure out the best way to go about this. Like, how do you take someone that, hasn't really gone through that process before and build out like an efficient and effective way to get them trained up on what they need to be able to lead, or fall a little bit better into a leadership role on our team.
Okay, nice. Great question. Has anybody done that recently? Or even if it wasn't recently, someone that just had a good experience on that? Of course, we've got some feedback, but I always want to open it up to peers first, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely see a couple clients here that are doing team meetings or team training or huddles. If anybody wants to speak up on how they manage that, what they've seen from that, I think that'd be really helpful advice. Thoughts?
I'll share
know-
one piece, give people a
Oh.
little bit of time to think, and then I'll say the other piece I'll share for later, and hopefully some people can jump in between. But I would say it's not going to be a one and done thing. Whatever it is that you do, it's not going to be I've done this now and it's good to go forever. It's going to be that consistency repeated over time with the people as you train them. That's going to make a big difference. That's why I think Nicole's suggesting kind of the team meetings and huddles for someone to kind of share on and how that's affected them, because that is going to be a necessary part of it. Or the rocks calendar, having that training and recruiting rock where you're doing one-on-ones to develop your team internally is going to be pretty crucial. But something that I've found that's my one tidbit I'll share now and then let Richard jump in. But something that I've found that's really valuable, especially for more of a leadership kind of management role, is to always respond with their queries and questions that they have with a simple question back. Hey, I've got help for you, for sure. But first, what have you already tried? What do you think we should do here? That way you can affirm if they've got it right and tell them, yep, exactly, go do it. You didn't need to ask me, go for it. Or correct if it's necessary to correct. And that'll be a really important thing to do. You have to train yourself not to put on your superhero cape and jump right in and solve the issue. But first, pause, make sure you hesitate and say, hey, what do you think we should do? What have you already tried? And then do the other two things. I'll pin that for now. Mr. Bayless, go ahead and give us your input, sir.
Yeah. So obviously I'm a one-man show, but I came from, as the other gentleman said, you know, the corporate world. I came from literally the biggest mechanical contractor in the United States that's owned by BlackRock. So I was a supervisor there over 15 guys prior to me deciding to go out on my own. But what you got to do is, you know, I don't know how you guys, how big your crew is or whatnot, but, you know, you're going to find your leaders within, and then, you know, I would, if you want to promote them, whether, I don't know if it's a journeyman or I mean, not journeyman, a foreman or supervisor, but slowly delegate tasks and see how they take that. Because like Bryce said, you know, it's not going to be a one and done thing, and you got to log that information and see how they work with other people. For one, you know, are they a true leader? Because some people, just because they're a good worker, doesn't mean they are a good leader. You know, because that's a whole different task of working with people, managing people, having to deal with people's personal problems, this and that. And then, you know, I like kind of what you said earlier. You know, there's what I've always been taught, you know, growing, you know, as a leader or whatever, there's internal customers and external customers. Internal customers are the people within the business. You know, how do they deal with dispatch? You know, this and that. And that'll help you decide, hey, this guy has it, you know. So I would say just feed them bones, you know, whether it's a job, you know, see how they do. And that's about it. And then obviously there are training things, you know, that'll implement, but it just depends on how the people take it. So that's about all I got.
Yeah. Richard, I think the main advice that I took from that and that I really want to emphasize is you can't train a team or build anybody up in leadership if you aren't setting clear expectations, meaning that they need to have a list of their duties. What are their responsibilities? What does success look like in that role? And if you are just verbally communicating that, or if you're saying things like, well, the job site just runs smoothly, it's not tangible. You know, we got to make it clear KPIs of what does success look like in this role, from people showing up on time, getting jobs done in a timely manner, less callbacks. You know, you want to really clearly define. And if you're going to do team training, go into that training with the idea of what you're wanting to cover that day. Don't just show up and be like, well, it's training. what's the main thing that we want to communicate and cover, and let's make sure that we give them really tangible action on that, and we circle back up on it. Laura, I know that you guys have been doing some team meetings here and there. I don't know if Jordan or Stacy Russell is on here as well. I know that you guys have been doing team trainings and also doing individual trainings where you're like sitting down with your guys and individually working with them on the things that they are maybe not doing as well as we want them to do, reviewing KPIs with them, all of that stuff. So I don't know if either of you guys have kind of some feedback on, hey, this is how we're running it and this is what we're seeing from it. Hate putting you guys on the spot, but if you have something, would love for you to share.
Yeah, so what we've found is that it does, like what she said, is it makes like problems show up more quickly than months down the road or weeks down the road. And you also get, like, what we're dealing with is the issues of like I can't, won't, and motivation. So like that stuff becomes really apparent also during meetings when like you're going over stuff and you look back and everybody's just doing this or they're not engaged, and it's like so like that's some of the stuff that you struggle with during like team meetings. And then you get an idea of like who there really wants to be there, who is like actively engaged in the plan, the mission, the, where this company's going and where it wants to go, and who just feels like they're inconvenienced that they have to do something that they feel they're too good for.
Yeah, that's
I mean,
huge.
that I would say like that is one of the bigger things that I've learned from it, is like who's on board and who's not on board. And actually, Nicole, when we get done with this, that's kind
what
of
we're going to be talking about.
Yeah, yes, ma'am.
I love it. And that's what we've been kind of working with Jordan on. And Jordan, elaborate, correct me if I'm wrong, is like, hey, if we have some feelings that a guy is just either not doing something we want him to do because he just feels above it or doesn't want, let's give him the opportunity to rise to the occasion. So let's sit down, let's go over the training, let's set expectations, let's make sure that that they feel confident, they know what it is that they're supposed to be doing. And then if you've done all that and they're still not doing it, time to find somebody else. And a couple group calls ago, we had that call about consistently looking, not because we want to be hiring and firing constantly, but because we don't want to be handcuffed to somebody who is ultimately not the right fit. So I really appreciate that advice, Jordan. I think I may have saw another hand go up or somebody unmute. Rapid Repair Handyman. I don't think I know your name.
My name is Adam. Good morning.
Good morning. Nice to meet you. What
So
advice do you have?
I was kind of a little bit in the back right here, just listening to everybody. So
Yeah.
just really quick, the win for me is that I signed up with you, Redmond Growth. This is my first week.
Woo!
And
That's a win.
so, but I did want to kind of touch in on this as you're hiring, team members and stuff. One of the biggest things that I found to be when you're hiring from within is that it is a bit of a challenge. And one of the challenges that we come up against is just because they're good employees doesn't mean that they make, unfortunately, good foremen or supervisors. Because unfortunately, one of the things that we've noticed is that the pressure as an employee and the pressure as a foreman or supervisor are two different pressures that they take on, and they blow up in their mind. And unfortunately, a lot of people that are moving up within the ranks don't understand. Hey guys, take a deep breath, take a step back, pay attention to what's going on. Not everybody works at the same pace, and unfortunately, we noticed in the past that it's kind of like children. Each children has their different type of need. We'll say, and that's one of the things that I looked at, right? Because everybody has a different need, a different way of training them. Unfortunately, for us, because it's not a blank canvas. So one of the biggest things that we got to look at is who we're trying to groom and move up. And sometimes you find out that even that person that you thought might not fit your culture after all. So I wanted to share that because we did have that, because the guy our technician that we were trying to move up kept clashing with everybody. He's like, well, wait a minute. Well, he had something to say about each and every one of the guys, whether it was a laborer, whether it was a sub, it's like, well, wait a minute. Is it the guys And we start finding out that each one has their own quirk, but he just doesn't know how to deal with them. So now that's something, a reflection on us on how we train him to deal with them. Like, to me, I guess I've learned how to become a little bit more passive and understanding and how to retrain and stuff. But, not everybody has that, so I just definitely wanted to share that with you guys.
Yeah, that's great advice. And you're right. There's people who are more visual learners. There's people who are gonna, you film a video and they'll be able to watch it and then know how to do it. And so, I'm a big believer in over documentation, over communication. Let's go over it in person. Let's have it documented on a Google Doc or spreadsheet. Let's have a video they can access. So there's really no room for excuses. We've given you every tool you need, to do it. So I think that's great advice. And I also, one thing that I heard is, hey, if everybody's saying the same thing about working with this person, there's a bit of a common denominator there. It's probably not the rest of the team. There's probably, even if they're a great worker, if everybody's miserable being around them, they're probably not worth the revenue that they're bringing in if they drive away everybody else, So I think that's great advice too.
Look for any red flag that you might have thought in the back of your mind, and just keep looking at those, because sometimes those red flags actually come, they become very what's the word, like they become bigger, right?
Yes.
So
Yep, totally agree. Totally agree. I heard a hand. Jeff.
So what happened recently with us is I've had a superintendent that's been with me a few years, and he knows construction really well. He could do a lot of hands-on work. He can manage the subcontractors well, works well with the homeowners. But he really was not strong in updating our builder trend schedule, keeping up with change orders from subcontractors and giving me a heads up, and just some of the admin type things, I call it more kind of the office project management type things that I needed him to do. So I ended up moving him to a different role. So he is, instead of being a superintendent or a kind of a super PM, as we like to call him, and or at least I do, he's going to be a subcontractor. Basically, he's going to do doors trim and a lot of trim carpentry type work, cabinetry. He can paint. He can do tile work. Not his strong suit. So he's going to move into that role. I hired a new super PM. Hopefully that works out. He starts in a couple weeks, but he's got some really good experience. So yeah, sometimes it kind of works where instead of just letting somebody go, you can maybe ship them into a different role, because I really like the guy, and I want to, and that's I think an important thing for anybody, is to put people in a role where they can succeed. I tried to force him into this role for 3 years, and again, and he did do some things well, but there are a lot of things that I need him to do better, or needed him to do better. He also refused to come on as a W-2 employee, which is, I don't know if that's a red flag, but a concern for me, because I'm trying to build a team here. So, so now the new super PM that's coming on board, he's all in. He's like, yeah, bring me on as an employee. And so, yeah, hopefully we'll see how it goes, but hopefully it works out.
I think that's phenomenal feedback,
Yeah.
Jeff. I know a couple of guys even I'm working with on this call are in a similar situation, trying to put somebody in a role that we don't necessarily want to let them go because they are really effective, but they're better suited for something else.
Yeah.
And so I think that's a really, really solid move on your part. And it goes back to what other people have shared before too, right? Some people are great technicians. That doesn't mean they become good manager type material. You don't want to have a bunch of checklist monkeys at your leadership level. If you're having to create a daily checklist for them that says, right, this is what you need to do on each of these job sites, that's not a helpful hire. That's not a helpful promotion. You need to have somebody that can think and react and do well. You're going to say something, Jeff?
I also was reaching a point of frustration with this guy multiple times where I'm like, I'm just going to cut ties and let him go. And I just kind of stuck with it and let it play out. And it was actually his initial coming to me saying, hey, I think I might be better as just working as a subcontractor. So I don't know, sometimes you just got to let things play out a little bit. And I did, and I'm glad I did, because I think this is going to be a good move for him and for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mr. RLS. Sorry, I don't know your name.
My name is Bob Stubblefield,
Oh, hey, Bob.
and let's see here. We have a small construction business, remodeling, and I've been working with Travis for a couple of years. And so my question is about hiring some admin people. I had this person helping me answering phone calls and scheduling my appointments and other things. And this person kind of spiraled. I think it might have been mental illness, or it could have been substance abuse or something, but it just kind of went downhill quick. And yesterday I fired her. And so now I'm kind of starting over again. And we were just ramping up. I just gotten set up with JobTread, and we're about to switch over the employees to digital time cards. And the other thing is I do work out of a home shop, so I don't have a traditional office. And wanted to ask you guys about hiring virtual admin people, or basically this person would come in to my home office about once a week, and we would have in-person meetings, go over stuff, and a lot of times it would be phone meetings. She lived about 45 minutes away from my place. So anyway, looks like I'm going to be starting a whole brand new hiring process for admin / project management. And just was wondering if you guys had any thoughts.
Yeah, Bob, that's a tough situation for sure. And it's hard, right? Having to let go of anyone but one that's been with you for a while, right? The thing though is that finding the replacement is probably easier than it may feel right now. And it sounded like you were just looking for general kind of feedback, right? Yeah. I don't know if you had like a specific, like how to find this kind of person, right? It sounds like the remote factor will be viewed as more of a benefit because you're wanting this individual to be local, to be able to come into the office, right? And so, like I would just run our hiring process.
Yeah.
And the important thing of that process, and you know what Paul Santaman really emphasized in his talk even a couple weeks ago, is you gotta have a way to vet out people quickly that aren't really worth your time, right? So the way that Paul talked about that was, you know, through you know, they do like a pre-recorded interview, they have people send them, and then they do like some sort of personality assessment type of thing, right? And then they do like the video call, then the interview, right? And so like for our group, for our hiring system, we do the kind of group hiring approach, especially for a role like this. And it works like basically the same way, right? They're just different tools. The important thing is you've got to have a way to vet people out quickly, right? And I would run that, and you really can find good, diligent people. I mean, our whole team works remotely now, right? We just recently hired a VA out in Colorado. Gosh, I'm starting to sound old. I was about to say like this young lady, you know, but she actually just finished her master's degree in ecology, right? And then she's like, I don't want to go down that path. And she's doing great, right? And so if you need specific, you know, job boards or recommendations there for a role like this, we can maybe make more recommendations. You know, I don't know how important it is that someone be local just to come into the office once a week. I would say that you would actually open up your opportunities to better talent if you didn't require that. But if that is a requirement, then let it be the requirement. That's fine, right? I just don't know if that's like absolutely essential. So yeah, man, it's hard, but I think the biggest thing is just starting that process fast. right? Trusting the process, creating a vetting system, and you'll find your right person. They're out there.
Yeah. I feel like I've gone through this a couple times now, and it's like, okay, something's going wrong. And what do they say? If it keeps going wrong, maybe it's not them, it's you, me.
Heard them say a lot of stuff like that. So yes. Yeah.
Travis has been going over this whole system that you're talking about with me. And then when I found this person before, she's basically the wife of one of my other employees. That employee is doing fantastic. Now I had to fire his wife, and but he's still with me. And he's all, well, I told her, but he's still trying to. He's doing phenomenal, and so it's a tricky situation. So I'll be working with Travis, working on basically trying to follow the procedure.
Trust that process and just get momentum in the direction of finding this person, right? It's like happened really sucks, but it happened. You did the right thing, right? You're doing the right thing. And now it's, you can find this person a lot faster than you may think. It may take some time to get them going after you find them, right? We've kind of been talking about that onboarding process. But you can find this person a lot faster than you might think, but just get momentum towards it, even if it doesn't all make sense, the whole entire process.
Yeah.
Just get that job ad up, get a badass written job post, write it from your heart, and go from there. Real quick, I want to go back. What was it, Drew and Danny earlier that asked the question about leadership, developing someone into leadership? Was that Drew and Danny?
Yes.
Okay. Are you guys still on? Okay. So you were given a lot of good feedback. I want to make sure a number of people a few times mentioned like this concept of the team meetings. And I'm wanting to make sure that we're maybe bridging the gap in like what is actually happening in that team meeting, that we would recommend a team meeting when you're asking a question about training someone for leadership, right? So I want to kind of circle back on that because I don't know if I think we can go a little bit deeper into what that actually means for like small businesses. So it is like when you guys are coming from the Big Four kind of consulting backgrounds that you guys come from, right? Like those are very matrixed organizations. They're very structured. They're very segmented, right? They're very limited within like certain segments of like specific responsibility or like technical skill. And when you're in like the world of small business, like as you guys probably already know, there's less like structure, there's less history there. And so there's just a lot of things that are happening that the whole team really needs to stay updated on. And that's like the first big reason why you want to do a team meeting, especially for someone in a leadership role, is to make sure that the left hand really knows what the right hand is doing and everyone is aligned and on the same page. Furthermore, the team meeting is really used to manage and delegate specific like tasks and projects, right? And that's a kind of follow-up loop, kind of like how we run our coaching meetings with action items or to-do list of some kind. And like assigning specific responsibility to people, giving due dates, right? All these kind of things. That's another important aspect of team meeting. And then there's this kind of just cultural component, right? If this person is going to be in a leadership position, right, they're going to be in a position of like owning or really leading the culture in some sense. And it's really helpful for that. The only other thing I wanted to recommend, and there may be some more thoughts that other coaches have on the team meetings that I didn't share that I would love for you guys to share. The only main thing that I'd recommend is I think we could maybe give more specific feedback if we knew like the specific position that you're thinking about, right? Is there a specific position that you're thinking about hiring, or are you kind of just asking like, hey, how you develop someone into like more of a leader, more of a manager?
Yeah, so just to give some context, and I won't be too long here, but I mean, basically we have at any given time, we've got like 15 to 20 guys working for us all right now pretty much in that labor category. You know, we have some higher skilled guys. We have some, you know, guys who are hard workers, but, you know, not super skilled. We have one, maybe two guys, like one that has kind of been our like faux PM. He really gets the business. He gets it from a business standpoint. He was actually our highest skilled worker, but a great leader, and gets it from like a high level business standpoint. And so we've been kind of trying to mold him, you know, into more of a PM role. So like he goes back, you know, like right now we have like 6 projects going on. So he'll help us, like he's transitioned from, you know, doing work in the field to now he's helping us run the field, hitting all of our project sites every day. So he's kind of in between like a PM and a superintendent role. Like he's doing quality control on site when he gets the projects, but he's also helping us with you know, planning. So like we, you know, we're building the plans out for the days and for the weeks, and we're kind of cross-checking with him. Hey, does this work with what's going on at each project, etc. But we're getting to a point where even having him as like a faux PM is not enough. So we really need him and maybe one more as like a legitimate project manager. So trying to mold people into the project manager role, but then also trying to take some of our best laborers and make them more into a superintendent role. So it takes some off of the new PM. I don't know if that.
No, that makes sense. So, like a few things within that I think are really helpful, some of which has already been shared. So the first thing is like what Nicole kind of touched on earlier, with setting really specific expectations. To take that kind of like a step deeper, like what that actually means is making sure that you guys have actually made like a actual reliable job description of some kind, right? Where the specific responsibilities are laid out on paper, and it's a document that you can actually like refer back to when developing and training someone. Hey, this is actually a part of your like stated, you know, official like responsibilities, right? So that they can get in that mindset of actually knowing specifically the expectations. And it also is a good challenge for you as an owner, because sometimes when we hire people into leadership positions, we just like want them to solve stuff. And like that person is trying to solve stuff, but my definition of solve stuff is like different from what they understand it to be, or like what I perceive as the main problem is different. So it's like the specific, and then take that step further. And like I think another really helpful document that we have made internally a number of times. I don't know if we have like really advertised this as a client-facing boxcar, but it's a system that we use. So long story short, we just Redmond Growth, we're bringing on a new marketing director on Monday. It's really exciting. Some of you will get to know her. Her name's Claire Burns. She has spent about a decade for working with this really high-end branding company in town, doing like Fortune 500 kind of like larger branding projects. But with her coming in, you know, we made her a job description, but it's like a kind of a new type of role for us. And it's a new type of role for her, even though she has a lot of the right experience that we need. And so something that Nicole helped me do was put together like a daily, weekly, and monthly kind of duties checklist. And it's a really simple thing, but it can be so helpful for really someone knowing, right, just what the expectation is on a daily, weekly, right, like a timeline type basis. Because a lot of time for a leadership position, especially if you hire someone internally that has already demonstrated like good baseline virtues, right? They show up consistently. They take ownership of problems. They're smart, right? They learn quickly. They have a good attitude. Like if someone has a base skill set like that, most of the time, the only thing that's like really stopping them from being able to operate in that leadership position very well is a specific like list or specific description of their responsibility. A lot of times the limiting factor is them just knowing what to do, right? Like specifically. And so those would be my recommendations. And then the last thing I just wanted to say is like promoting from within internally. Like I always favor that option more so than hiring externally, right? I think a lot of times though, for a lot of businesses, like really developing and moving someone up internally, I think most people, it's hard to do that with them because they kind of get into a groove and kind of get stuck into like the role they've been. And a lot of people just like being there, right? And so hiring externally can actually really work so long as the person has like the right experience. Like don't sleep on hiring someone that is already doing what you need this person to do to some degree in their role right now, right? Like I look at what we did at Power Builders, and we really struggled with the project management position specifically, right? We tried a number of different people in it, and it just kept on. You know, we weren't seeing the ownership, we weren't seeing the follow through. People didn't know how to like set expectations with customers. They're telling two different customers that they'll be at the customer site at the same time, right? Impossible. And it wasn't really until we actually hired a guy that reached out to Redmond Growth for help that I actually asked, like, hey, are you open to considering full-time employment? It was just a one-man show in Seattle. And he was open to it, and we brought him on, and he's been incredible. But he's been incredible because he has been an owner and just really knows how to run construction projects well. But the point of saying all that is don't underestimate working with someone like Paul Sandman at Contractor Staffing Source. Don't underestimate finding someone, right, with the experience that you're looking for this person to already have. Sometimes, I think someone said it earlier, and it was really good. They said something to the degree of, someone who's like a worker can't always be a leader, or they said something like that, right? I forgot who it was. Do you guys remember what I'm talking about? Someone shared that earlier. They said, hey, sometimes like an employee who's like in a specific position, even if they're really good in that position, really skilled, right? They're not always the right one for a leadership role. Sometimes people just don't want to do it, right? And that's okay.
And that point is actually another piece of it that we're working through, is that a lot of our highest skilled guys are definitely not fit for a leadership role.
Yeah.
A lot of our lowest skilled guys are the ones, the hardest workers, the most reliable, the best leaders on the team. So that's another thing we're kind of going back and forth on, is like, all right, like if we, and everyone knows on the job site what skill level you are, like, what's it going to do to our highest level, tradesmen when we promote a guy who he knows he's, better than, so to speak. So that's an interesting thing.
Let him know that. Let the guy walk with the respect and dignity that he reserves of putting his entire life into developing a skill set. That's not going to change. But you can still be a good leader that the highest skilled guy on the team that's not going to be a good leader still respects, right? If you respect that guy's skill set still as well. If he's coming in and acting like a dumbass, right? Like I used to act like in the early days, like a manager, barking orders at people, telling like saying stuff that's coming out of it's just bullshit, right? Like he's going to immediately lose that guy's respect. But if that guy walks in respect for this other high skilled trade guy, right, he's going to earn that guy's respect, and that guy will probably want to do good work for him. There's a really great book I would recommend. We make everybody read it who joins us at Redmond Growth. It's called Leadership and Self-Deception. And I would, you guys read that book, because I recommend every owner read that book, right? And then I would consider having your other people coming in read that book, because if you find a leader that operates within the principles that book talks about, like that's what that whole book's about, is about how, as a manager, as a leader, right, as a coworker, to treat people as people with respect, right, not as objects, as a means to an end, which happens in our jobs all the time. And so, yeah, I wouldn't be so concerned about that, right? I would be concerned about that if you have a bad leader, right? Like I remember, what the issue you're talking about was an issue that we ran into when we were trying to find a PM. We had a guy in there that was skilled, right? Really skilled construction guy, but he was like kind of young and a little bit insecure. And so whenever we would get new guys on our team, just for like more labor, high skilled trade positions, like this guy would get super sensitive and he would cause these guys to leave, right? Because as a leader, he was like, oh, these guys are better than me. They're going to outdo me. And so the right person though, like they don't operate with that ego and insecurity, right? And they're out there. So yes, use the team meeting to develop culture with a person, to manage specific action items on projects, and to make sure the entire team really knows what everyone's doing, right? Promote from within is great, right? A lot of people aren't cut out for it. I think the biggest component to successfully like getting someone in who's in the right seat is really coming up with specific expectations, right? Getting that clear job description, getting that daily duties. It'll be a challenge for you guys as owners, but it will be incredibly helpful, right? And then don't be afraid to hire someone like a higher skilled guy, right? That already has the experience that you're looking for. Mr. Rapid Repair, did you have something? I saw your hand raised.
I did. While you were talking, one of the things that came to mind as Drew had asked this question and you were talking is I know, and it's gonna be crazy, but the show that I just watched was The Landman. I don't know if you guys have watched it, but when Tommy's son, right, he was going to school, got educated, dropped out of school, and he wanted to be one of the guys at the bottom, right, just so he can learn the job. But now at the end of the season finale, he's going to be running everything. You know what I'm saying? So he got enough experience to understand how everything works, but in reality, that's not what he wanted to do. He wanted to do, the job above, which is, possibly estimating, managing, in this regards, right? So I just kind of wanted to share that, because a lot of times we are afraid of bringing someone in, and in reality, unless we give people the chances, we still, we don't always know. And I thought that always hiring from within was always the best thing, but sometimes I found out that it's not. So don't be afraid, is the only thing I can say, but just make sure that we, have, like you said, Robert, make sure that we have our duties that we want them to, to do and so forth. Yeah.
Appreciate
Yeah,
that. I'm really glad
value-
we made it into our group call.
Thank you.
Yeah, let's go. We can reference some fiction and add some really good value. Yeah, there's also, I think, value from that idea too of even just knowing what the roles are in your business. Sean Van Dyke says a lot about this with his kind of organizational chart talk. But what he says is make the role for the needs of the business, not the role for the person that's filling it. So if you have the outline, sort of the pathway to success, if you will, of what the roles are in the business and people know what that is, you know what that is, then you can also filter in and fit the right people to the right roles. And they see, oh, I'm good at these things. I'm not quite there yet. And again, people will show you their merit. They will show you if they want it, as long as they know what the path is and what they're shooting for, aligned with everything else that's been said so far.
You mind if I ask some more questions?
Yeah, David.
Go ahead.
Just to kind of understand. So you're looking for a superintendent, is that correct?
I think the bottom line is we're still trying to figure out what we're looking for, but yes, like somewhere in between that PM superintendent role, whether it be, one or the other, or kind of a mix. Yes, that's what we're getting after.
Do you have, so you're always, as you grow and expand, and I'll just kind of a little background of mine is I managed large corporate companies. The last one was, I had 75 people that reported to me. you're always going to run into that situation where you're looking at promoting people and there's going to be individuals with more experience, and you're going to wonder how that individual with more experience is going to react to somebody that maybe doesn't have as much experience but would be better in a leadership role. So I will say that. Do you have somebody in mind?
Yeah. So, I mean, we have the one guy, like I was saying, that we're already kind of like, we've given him a lot of responsibility. We're already kind of shaping him into that role, but we have a couple of other guys on the team that we're looking to step up as, definitely more of like a superintendent-esque role.
Have you sat them down and asked them how they would how they would manage that relationship as with those individuals?
We haven't asked specifically that question, but we have started, kind of just giving them, like, for example, a couple of them, we've kept them up, like, because we move guys around normally based on trades and what the day requires, but we've taken a couple of guys that we like and we've kind of kept them at the same job for a couple of weeks and started kind of handing them more leadership, coordination, responsibility, and just, not necessarily sat down and said, hey, here's what we want you to be yet, but like, hey, we're doing that behind the scenes, handing them more and more and seeing how they kind of handle it. Does that make sense?
I think I would the individuals that you have selected, I would pull them aside. I'd have a meeting with them and I'd ask them, I'd say, we've got individuals that are extremely important to our team, that have more experience. And obviously we look at you in high regards, and we just want to know, if you were to step into a kind of a leadership role, how would you win these people over? So I want to know that from them. And then the other thing is, when you're having your team meetings, one thing that I used to do is we used to pick a book, a management book, because it's hard to train management, right? So there's a lot of programs out there that you can choose from. Just go through a chapter a week is kind of the preface of your meeting. Have everybody read a chapter, discuss the chapter, understand it, see what it means to them, and then move on to the things that are important for the business. That way everybody's kind of working towards a common goal, if that makes sense.
That's really good, David. I appreciate it. I'm going to go ahead and officially wrap us up just because we're a few minutes over. And so really good discussion today. If you're new to the group call, the way we like to end the call, we do a countdown, 3, 2, 1, and we all say growth on 3, kind of like a breakdown of a football huddle. So I'm going to count us down. If everyone could unmute their mics. 3, 2, 1, grow! That was a fun countdown. Okay, we'll see you guys.
Thank you.